I always tell my children, and they will tell you this, I tell them you have to give your life away. And when you give it away, you're giving it away with other people. And you share it together. And nothing is ever accomplished by one person alone. Nothing.
It is that philosophy of giving that has guided Elaine Freeman. She is founder of the ETV Endowment, the member organization that supports programming on SCETV and South Carolina Public Radio. And she remembers well those early years more than 40 years ago when the ETV Endowment began from her home.
Well, that's true on my dining table, but I had a lot of help. You know, Henry Cawthon was a visionary, head of South Carolina ETV at the time. And he, with Nella Gray Barkley, the first American manager of Spoleto, raised the money and produced the Menotti Opera, The Consul, for great performances. And PBS was very young at that time, and he wanted to make PBS his goal and make ETV a star in production.
Programming coming from this area,
and
from
he
South
talked
Carolina.
to Nella Barkley because she had worked with him. She said, I have a friend. There was no selection process with the committee. I wrote a management by objective proposal for him, and which he liked. And the founding trustees of the endowment, they were the bulwark who consistently were followed by other great directors, the late Governor McNair, the late Hugh Chapman, Nella Barkley.
And what was your vision for the organization?
Well, I loved good educational television, and I knew that state funding couldn't do that, and Henry knew that. And my vision was adopted from his, to make ETV Endowment beloved as a membership organization through the state, so that people who joined the endowment with their gifts every year would feel that they were the family.
And their gifts supported programs like Marion McPartland's Piano Jazz on NPR for more than 40 years, and Nature Scene on ETV starting in 1978.
I'm devoted to Rudy Mankey. He was my mother-in-law's paper boy. And he came to me with an idea, and we set that idea in motion, and we took near 36 trips with endowment members. He's like the Pied Piper, and that was so much fun, and we raised a lot of money for ETV in the process.
Freeman and trustees of the endowment were also instrumental in acquiring ETV's present-day headquarters in Columbia. After purchasing a building owned by the Sarah Lee Foundation, they had to find tenants, including Harvest Hope and Sears Roebuck, when money was tight.
We rented out all the space, and it was a real challenge because there was no electricity. And one time I was showing the space and a rat ran over my foot. But we were able to get the money that way until we could get the capital campaign going. And then our trustees were wonderful. The late Robert Small took me with him to then Bell South and Piedmont Natural Gas, and Lawrence Gressett. They all worked together, and we raised the money, and the state was impressed and put in some money as well, and we opened that beautiful telecommunications center in 1998. And that was so much fun.
In addition to your work with the ETV Endowment, your founding of it, you have been a major force within the Spartanburg community, founder of the Charles Lea Center in 1971. Your vision helped establish the Ellen Hines Smith Girls Home. How have you decided which causes to support and then get behind them?
Well, it's always been about education, and a lot about special education, and about young people who don't have the opportunities for education. And of course, ETV was offered that, but the Lea Center was so badly needed. I taught in the public schools here first, And I will tell you that there were 4 separate boards who were 4 separate entities who had their own money and their own mission, and they were willing to come together to form the Lea Center board, to merge all their assets, to build a new entity, and it's very rare that that can happen. That was an eye-opening experience for me early in my voluntary career, to see a center that is now serving people with disabilities from birth to nursing home. It has residential components and so on. And to see that grow has been one of the most rewarding things of my life, because I chaired that fundraising campaign, again with a wonderful team.
Elaine Freeman retired as executive director of the ETV Endowment in 2008 after 31 years as its executive director, but she still remains active in support of programming.
I became an executive producer through the decades of raising money to be accountable, and you're working with the likes of Bill Moyers and other producers, and you have to have production insurance, liability insurance. And so that kind of led me into being an executive producer, first with Piano Jazz, and then with John Rainey, this World War II series and Vietnam series, which you have seen, and Man and Moment profiles of veterans. And that has been an eye-opening experience, because veterans, some of whom I've known because I've been around a while, would never talk about what they went through. But away from that experience, enough decades, and being interviewed for a documentary about South Carolinians and their sacrifices, and not just those who served, but those who were at home, those who were building the ships in the Navy Yard. You learn how dedicated these young people were then to keep our country free.
How would you describe your overall life vision and how it's affected your career?
I don't want to sound trite, but I was baptized as a child in the Hitchcock Memorial Presbyterian Church in Scarsdale, New York. And I met my husband in Boston. He was at MIT. And I've been a lifelong Presbyterian. And I believe that there is a plan for your life. And you have the ability to miss that plan. You have free will. But at any time you can redeem it. But with a little help from your family and your friends and the stewards you can try to make your life count for something. I'm an octogenarian now, and I've had a whole lot of fun with a lot of friends, and I pray that the plan that was set for me when I was born is in part fulfilled.